Hashem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here on a Wednesday night, Stump the Rabbi, where after a little bit of Divrei Torah, where you guys will ask some questions, Bezrat Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers. Tonight's shiur will be for Refuah Shlema for Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Levana, Rav Ephraim Ben Shulamit, Rivka Bat Sarah, Tinok Bat Ben Rivka, David Ben Esriya, Doris Bat Jora, Yitro Ben Avraham, Talia Bat Sarah, Orit Bat Ilana, Joshua Ben Noach, and also for a Atzlacha Rabbah for Marsha Bat Julie, Ayla Bat Marsha, Samuel Ben Marsha, Cephas Ben Marsha, Alexander Ben Marsha, Louis Ben Marsha, Shaul Ben Farzane, Reuven Chaim Ben Parel, Oshri Ben Doris, Gabi Ben Doris, Elad Ben Doris, Alex Ben Noach, Netanel Yosef Ben Avraham, and all of Am Yisrael and all of the righteous Noahites and the righteous people that continue to contribute, whether it's by learning our Torah or it's donating money or time or skills. Baruch Hashem, Ashrechem, Ashrechem, Ashrechem. So Baruch Hashem, we have extraordinary news, fantastic news for anybody that hasn't heard yet. Baruch Hashem, Rudy Rochman and the rest of the guys were freed. Baruch Hashem, were freed, were released from the hellhole of the prison in Nigeria. And as we speak, they're on their way, they're on a flight back to Eretz Yisrael, which Baruch Hashem is exactly as we thought was ideal. There's really no reason for them to be there. And Baruch Hashem, they're on their way home. So this, Baruch Hashem, was a very, very big Siyata D'Ishmaya, and we want to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu properly. So we're going to read Mizmor LeTodah. Anytime something major, something good happens, it doesn't necessarily need to be something major for everybody. It could be major for you. It's good to read, to show to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we're appreciative. It's good to start off by saying a Mizmor LeTodah. Now, even though I already did this earlier today, we'll do it together, Bezrat Hashem, it's the Psalm 100. Mizmor LeTodah, ariu LaAdonai kol haaretz, ivdu et Adonai besimcha, בואו לפניו ברננה, דעו כי אדוני הוא אלוהים, הוא עשנו ולא אנחנו, עמו וצאן מרעיתו, בואו שעריו בתודה, חצר אותה בתהילה, הודו לו ברכו שמו, כי טוב אדוני לעולם חסדו, והדור ודור אמונתו. קדוש ברוך הוא is great, extraordinary, amazing. There's simply not enough words in all of the vocabularies in the universe to describe how amazing HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, because this whole situation with Rudy and the team over there could have been much, much worse than it was. Of course, even what happened was definitely a extraordinary kaparat avonot, but at the same token, Baruch Hashem, that it's over and it's behind them, and Bezrat Hashem, they will go on to a life full of Torah and Maasim Tovim, and Bezrat Hashem do a lot of good in the Jewish world, Bezrat Hashem. And of course, may we all do complete tshuva and not only thank Hashem properly for today, but thank Hashem properly for the rest of our lives. And really, this is one of the things that is discussed in this week's parasha. As I always tell you guys, everything you ever want to get an answer for that's happened to you in your life, is you could always find it in the weekly parasha. Last week we had that wicked, cursed show, Unorthodox, released from the seventh chamber of Gehenom into the Jewish world and create confusion, to create turmoil for those among us that are very weak already and are still watching television and movies and Hollywood, and are constantly setting our eyes on the grass that doesn't belong to us, the field that doesn't belong to us, and the life that doesn't belong to us, Am Yisrael. But nonetheless, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does when we look out of curiosity. At some point, this curiosity is going to create damage. And of course, all of those Reshaim that cause the damage, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will also give them their own punishment. As it says in the Gemara, Megalgelim zchut al yedei zakai vechova al yedei chayav. That in the Bet Din of Shamayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the good, the blessings to those that have merit, and the curses, the problems, the job of being the stick that hits the Jewish people to those that have sins on their hands. So you see that those people that have sins usually cause damage to society, and even if that society is their own dearest and most beloved people in their own life. That's in essence, that's the merit they earned for themselves. They want to cause damage to Am Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make that also cause damage for their own family. And in essence, that's what's going to happen with these people. And we saw it in last week's parasha, where it says at the end of Parashat Vayitchanan, Meshalem el sonav el panav la'avido. HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays cash to their face of his haters to destroy them. He pays them to their face, and he will not delay the payment. So part of the payment is to give them money that will destroy them. Part of the payment will give them fame and fortune to destroy them. Part of the payment will give them all types of other things that they don't want to destroy them. And why? Because they are desecrating the Torah, and especially on a public level. It's not like you could say these people are ignoramuses, that they were born in some kibbutz and they never learned anything. This is a person that lived in a Jewish community their whole life and decided to make the Jewish community and their Torah the number one enemy. And of course, the only way to deal with such things is with aggression and with 100% uncensored truth, and not to tiptoe around it and pretend like it's not so bad or anything like that. Because the reality is that if these people have an ounce of merit left in them, perhaps that's being covered by the klipa of sins that they have, then maybe the strong rebuke will break that klipa shell that they have, and they'll wake up from their slumber. But at the same token, if a person really understands what's happening here, is that if a person wants to be a secular, they don't want to follow the Torah and mitzvot, they tried it, they don't like it, they never connected to it, whatever the case may be, whatever craziness is in somebody's head that they decide that they have a better way than God's way, fine. If they want to do it, we're sad, but there's not much that we can do. You can't force anyone to be religious. Everybody, to each their own. They're going to do whatever they want. You obviously will try to help them. You'll pray for them. You'll even try to encourage them to come back. But there's not much else that you can do. If somebody wants to go and desecrate the Torah, eat shrimp and pig and all types of bugs from the ocean and from the land, and be promiscuous and become the fire hydrant for the community and all types of other filthy, disgusting things, they want to do it to themselves. There's not much that you can do. But when they decide that not only do they want to become secular, but they want to become the enemy of the Jewish people, they want to become the enemy of the Torah, they want to become the enemy of Hashem by constantly publicizing their secularism, their war against the Torah, their hatred of the Torah, their hatred of the religious Jewish people, their hatred of Hashem. When a person does such a thing like that, there's nothing else to do but to be even more aggressive towards them with words, of course, and not with physical. We don't have the Sanhedrin that allows us to kill anybody or even hit anybody. But nonetheless, we have to be as aggressive as possible against those people, because that's what the Torah tells us to do. We cannot just sit there and quietly hoping for the best while they're declaring war and desecrating Hashem's name. As the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin says, "B'makom sheyesh chilul Hashem en kavod larav." In a place that there's desecration of Hashem, there isn't even consideration of honoring rabbis. Meaning, even if there was a rabbi that was desecrating Hashem's name, you can't even take that into account. You can't even take the honor of the rabbi into account when it comes to the honor of Hashem. So when somebody decides to be secular, that's one thing. And even itself, it's a form of chilul Hashem, of desecrating Hashem's name. But when somebody decides to go on TV and publicly and on a regular basis desecrate Hashem's name, that's a war against Hashem, and that's a war that we all have an obligation to fight. We all have an obligation to fight in our own different ways. Some can fight by simply not watching. Some can fight by discouraging other people not to watch. Some people can fight by doing other things like talking bad about it and simply explaining to people how much of a danger it is, and so on and so forth. Everybody has their own role. And that was in essence in last week's parasha. And this week's parasha, Baruch Hashem, this parasha, Parashat Ekev, is full of extraordinary blessings and chidushim, and it's just full of amazing things. But also the situation that happened with Rudy and some of the other things that are happening in the world is also here. Because you see that in the beginning of the parasha, Kadosh Baruch Hu tells us, through Moshe Rabbeinu, ושמרתם ועשיתם אותם, ושמר אדוני אלוהיך לך את הברית ואת החסד אשר נשבע לאבותיך. That if we keep the mitzvot, we observe the mitzvot, we perform them, not keep them in a box, we actually perform these mitzvot, and Hashem will protect us, will safeguard us, because we safeguarded His covenant. And the kindness that He swore to our forefathers, to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, is what He's going to give us. And here it says, ve'avecha, וברכך ובירבך וברך פרי בטנך ופרי אדמתך. And here he starts giving us a whole slew of blessings where it says Hashem will love you. Hashem will love you if you do this. You keep Torah and mitzvot, Hashem will love you. It doesn't say Hashem will love you if you are desecrating Shabbat. It doesn't say Hashem will love you if you love all the idol worshippers. It doesn't say Hashem will love you if you decide that you want to run around immodest and like a zonah. It doesn't say that. It says that if you observe the covenant, you observe the Torah and the mitzvot, Hashem will love you, and He will bless you, and He will multiply you, and He will bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your land. Meaning that not only will you have the ability to bring children to the world, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make this putrid seed turn into a beautiful, wonderful human being, but on top of it, He'll give you the money to pay for all of it. He'll bless your land. He'll bless your parnassah. And that's one of the things that really is the most shameful about this generation of murderers, where people are constantly murdering children by performing abortions and thinking that just because they don't see the actual baby walking around or crawling around, it's not murder. But unfortunately, it is 100% murder, and there's literally millions of babies murdered every single year all around the world. And it's funded in the United States. It's a big part of it is funded by the actual government itself. But really, the biggest funder of it is the ignorance of people. People simply don't understand what they're doing. We talked about it a little bit in the movie Tikkun HaBRIT that we made. For anyone that wants to watch, there's a whole section about abortions. But one of the things that a person, really that has their brain still in their head notices about people that are anti-Torah, anti-Jews, anti-Semitic, even if they're Jews themselves, is that they always talk about how religious people have a lot of kids. First of all, religious Jewish people are not the only people that have, or at least try to have, many kids. Quite frankly, all religious people throughout all of history tend to have many kids. Why? Because throughout all of history, with the exception of this lowly degenerate generation, throughout all of history, everybody understood that to have children is a blessing. To have children is a blessing. Hence the reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu says, He'll bless the fruit of your, He'll bless your womb. You'll have fruit come out of this womb, and it's not going to be just some sack. It's going to be something that produces children. And throughout all of history, people viewed children as a blessing. Only this lowly, pathetic generation views having children as a negative thing. And the reason why is because people are constantly worried about their own personal time. There was somebody that did a research recently that was shown to me, where it was asked, what are you most concerned about in regards to having more children? Personal time, concern for not having your personal time, or not having the money, or you simply don't want, or whatever the third reason was. And the number one reason why people were concerned about not having more kids is because of personal time. They don't want to have more kids because they want to go on vacation more often, and they want to go to work more often, and be slaves more often, and go drinking more often, and so on and so forth. And in reality, they continue to live such a life that literally is so self-centered, so selfish, that they don't even understand that something else exists in the world besides them. And they don't view having children as a blessing, unfortunately. And you see it many times, that the number one attack, most common attack that people have on the Jewish people is that they have a lot of children, and we wish we could have as many children as the Muslims have, but nobody ever talks about that. Muslims have a lot more children than the Jewish people do, but nobody ever talks about that, because God forbid you talk about the Muslims, you know that you're most likely going to have your head put into a refrigerator the next day, and the government is too scared to do anything about it. But the reality is, it's not as popular to be anti-Muslim. You're not going to have the same thing in many other places. Why? Because it's a lot more fun, a lot more popular to be anti-Semitic. Even if those Semites, those Jews are your brothers and sisters. So the good Jew, the Jew that has their head on their shoulders, views having a child as a gift that will keep on giving. But unfortunately, when a person doesn't see it that way, that already shows that person is not exactly thinking right. Now, of course, everything has to be done with Dat Torah. The woman has to be healthy, both physically and psychologically, to be ready to bring more children into the world. We're not saying that a woman should simply be a person that doesn't have any free choice, like some people think. But again, this is one of the things that unfortunately has infiltrated the minds of the women in the world today, especially in these liberal types of women, where they want to have 2 dogs, maybe 1 kid, and perhaps a carriage for each one of them, but make sure to have enough money for a vacation and at least a few wigs. That's in essence what people view life as. They view life as a place to have fun. And as a person that's been around for a long time and met a lot of different people, especially older people, one of the most common things that I've heard throughout my life from people that are much older than I am, but I learned a lot from, is that one of the most common things that they regret in their life is not having more children. That's been one of the most common things. Some people decided that they wanted to remain single, and that was fun when they were 30 and 40 and 50, and they were going on different vacations. But as soon as they start going into their 50s and mid 50s in age, sometimes even earlier than that, they start becoming very, very miserable and bitter, and many times even suicidal, because they realize that single life, that thought of or illusion of being untouchable, and you could just keep going on more and more vacations and have a blast by yourself, is not exactly like they thought it was going to be. As they got older, it's not as much fun as they thought it was going to be, and they become very, very bitter because they can no longer do the things that they were able to do when they were younger. And unfortunately, many times people decide, oh, you know what? Okay, even though I'm 60 years old, maybe I'll still get married and have a kid. Listen, there's no prohibition from having a child at a later age, at 60 years old, and so on. It's no problem if you could have a kid. It's good. But at the same token, you should think about it where you say, listen, why should I wait till 60 that by the time my kid's going to get married, most likely you're either not going to be alive, or even if you are, you're probably in a wheelchair of some kind. A person needs to think about some of these things, but unfortunately most people don't think that far. People think about only the wall that's in front of them. They think about the wall that's in front of them and not necessarily things that are beyond that. It's something that a person needs to take into account. Anyway, the parasha continues where Kadosh Baruch Hu then tells us "Velo ta'avod et Eloheim ki mokesh ulach," that one of the biggest traps that we have in the world from the time of creation until today is the issues of idolatry. Idolatry is not just a statue or a false god, a Yeshua Notzri, a Jesus of Nazareth, or a Buddha, or anything like that, but rather idolatry is also, aside from that, is also a wrong ideology, an ideology where materialism becomes your priority in life, or some type of physical issues, women, men, attention, pride, money, all these different things are different forms of idolatry. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us outright here that all of these are traps. All of these are traps of the Satan. If you read enough Torah, you'll know that these are traps before you fall into them. If you ignore the Torah, you unfortunately only find out that they're traps after you're already inside them. Now, then the Kadosh Baruch Hu continues to warn us about all types of idolatry. The only mitzvah to fulfill with the idolatry is to tisrefun ba'esh, to destroy it. That's the only mitzvah you could do with idolatry. And then in the verse 26, in chapter 7, verse 26, it says, Lo tavi to'eva el betecha, that you should not bring an abomination into your home. And the Steipler Gaon, Rav Yaakov Kanievsky, alav shalom, and many of the poskim of that generation said that Lo tavi to'eva el betecha, don't bring an abomination to your house, is a television. Don't bring an abomination to your house, is a television. If you bring a television into your house where it's not just simply used as a screen to put, Torah lectures and kosher programming to educate yourself or your children, but rather you're going to put the news and sports and shows and movies and all types of gates to Gehenom, then you're bringing a abomination into your house, and it can be paskind in Shemaim the same way that it was paskind in this world as idol worship. And that's, Rabotai, one of the big things that we discussed last week, that all of these people that are feeling weakened as a result of the shows that they watch on TV or the movies they watched, and they feel less connection to Hashem, more emunah problems, more difficulties in their servitude of Hashem, it's their own fault. If you're continuing to watch TV, to watch movies, even if it's on a computer, if you're continuing to do all of those things, don't be surprised that your neshama is slowly but surely going to run away from Hashem. Why? Because you are constantly practicing something that the Chachamim called an abomination, and the Torah confirmed it. So here is one of the other things that it says. One of the other things that this parasha also talks about is that when a person has all of this toiva, all of this abomination in his life, they're going to have all types of ideological problems. They're not going to have the right understanding of who's the one that's giving them the blessings, the miracles, who's the one that freed Rudy, who's the one that gave you money to be able to live in a house, who's the one that gave you a baby, who's the one that gave you a wife or a husband. People think, no, he was freed because such and such made a phone call or wrote a letter. He got a wife because he is a good-looking guy. She got a husband because she's a really nice person. He got the job because he's really good at what he does. And people pin all types of natural things on the blessings that they get in their life. And unfortunately, this is the wrong ideology. This is the wrong ideology. Why? Say here in the parasha it says, "Ladat et asher bilvavecha tishmo mitzvotav imlo." So Hashem says He wants to know what's in He's constantly going to test you by knowing what's in your heart, and to see whether you're observing the Torah based on your belief in Hashem and knowledge of Hashem, or simply because you live in a Jewish community and you feel bad. But most importantly, ki lo al alechem levado yichya adam, ki al kol motza pi Adonai yichya adam. That a person needs to understand that he's not living. This is a pasuk number 3. Pasuk number 3. It's a long pasuk in chapter 8, where Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling us that you need to know one of the most important things that a person needs to have in their ideology is that all blessings, all good, all bad, all everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You were freed because Hashem decided you were freed. Not because somebody made a phone call, and not because somebody wrote a letter, and not because of an embassy, and not because of a babatach. Nothing. Because Hashem decided this is when you're going to be freed. You got money because Hashem decided that you're going to get money. You got married because Hashem decided you're going to get married. You got this because Hashem decided. This is how the world works. And a person who does not understand that has an ideological problem. Now, of course, each person needs to have some type of effort to do certain things, but just because you have effort doesn't mean you'll succeed. And also, just because you don't have effort doesn't mean you'll fail. We've seen that countless times throughout our lives. Many times you will try something and fail. Other times you won't try at all and succeed anyway. So it's important for a person to know that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and nothing comes from your own actions. Even the land itself was not something that we were given because we were so righteous, because we did such great things. That's actually one of the things this parasha says. Well, first it tells us that He wants to make us know that it's not by bread alone does a man live, rather by everything that emanates from the mouth of God does man live. That's what the pasuk says in chapter 8, verse 3. And then He says to us, Ishamer lecha pen tishkach et Adonai Elohecha, that take care lest you forget Hashem, your God. Why would I forget God? He says, after I gave you all these different blessings, which I only covered a small portion of them, don't forget God. Why? Because that's what we tend to do. We tend to get blessings, we say Baruch Hashem, and 15 minutes later we forget about Hashem. We say Baruch Hashem, a week later we forget about Hashem. We say Baruch Hashem, 2 days later we're desecrating Hashem. Oh, I love Hashem so much, she tells me. Oh, I love Hashem so much, he tells me. Oh, Hashem is the best, Hashem is the best. Okay, so how come you're committing a moral crime? How come you're going with a married woman? How come you're going with a Jew even though you're not Jewish? How come you're going with stealing from your customers? How come you're doing all? You just said you love Hashem. How come you're going against Hashem? Oh, no, but I don't mean it that way, Rabbi. Oh, no, you don't need to explain yourself to me. You have to explain yourself to yourself. How could you, on one hand, one side of your lips saying that you love Hashem, but the other side is, I'm going to do whatever I want anyway. And that's unfortunately what happens a lot with people. It's like they find like an example that I gave you yesterday, which I heard from Rabbi Frenemies, which I think is a spectacular example, as simplistic as it is they find their friend's wallet full of cash, and instead of returning the wallet, saying, Baruch Hashem, I can do a mitzvah now by returning the wallet, they say, Baruch Hashem, Hashem sent me parnasah. Meaning they're stealing their friend's money, but they think that that's the blessing from Hashem. It's literally a ideological status of someone that's literally almost spiritually dead. It's almost spiritually dead. And unfortunately, this happens many times when people get blessings of all types. Initially, they thank Hashem, they even make a public statement of their gratitude of Hashem, and then they go back to sinning, they go back to going against Hashem on a regular basis, not thinking much of it, because they figure, listen, Hashem understands my weaknesses, as if that's okay. And that's actually the next part of the parasha that Moshe Rabbeinu tells us over here, that you have to know all of this Torah is not something that just came to be by itself. Obviously, we went through the desert. We went through hell and back. We went through Egypt. We went through a lot of different things. And you have to understand that this was one miracle after another. And this miracle was not just done for your parents. He tells them it was not just for you. It was done for everybody. You were gifted this not because you guys are so righteous, but rather because of the promise that Hashem made to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. To Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Because even though in the chapter 9, he talks about, he says, don't say in your heart that when Hashem pushes the goyim away from the land before you, saying that it's because of my righteousness that Hashem bring me to possess this land. And it's because of the wickedness of these nations that did Hashem drive them away. That we were righteous and they were wicked, and that's why Hashem gave us the land. Moshe Rabbeinu says to them, don't think that for a second. No, why? Because you are a stubborn nation. You didn't really deserve the land. Hashem gave it to you because He promised it to someone that did really deserve it. Your grandparents, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Now, for you, you got it because of them. For you to keep it, it's only because of your actions. If you are righteous, you'll keep it. If not, the land will vomit you out. Zachor al tishkach, remember and don't forget, meaning it's a double commandment here. Now, he says to them about all the different things that they did, how they went against Hashem, Mount Sinai, even after they got the Torah, they worship an idol, he broke the 10 commandments, and so on and so forth. And then he talks about how the land is being divided. It says, Al ken lo yeh lelevi chelek nachala im echav, Adonai hu nachalto. That therefore the Levi tribe doesn't have a share and a heritage in the land like the rest of the tribes, because Hashem is his heritage. Hashem is his heritage, meaning the Levi tribe does not get a piece of the land. So the Rambam in Mishneh Torah, the Rambam in Mishneh Torah Rabbi Mishneh Torah in Ilchot Ayovel, Ilchot Shemitah and Ayovel, in chapter 13, it says, in the first halacha, it says, although the tribe of the Levi does not have an ancestral portion within Eretz Yisrael, the Jewish people were commanded to give them cities to dwell in them, and additional residential property. So even though they weren't gifted an actual piece of land, the Rambam says that every one of the other tribes were commanded to give them pieces of their land. The cities include the 6 cities of refuge and 42 additional cities. When the cities of refuge will be added in the area of Mashiach, all will be given to the Levites. So here you see that the Levi tribe got an enormous amount of property, even though they weren't gifted something like the other tribes. They were still extremely well off and had a lot of things, and Hashem is their heritage. Now, we said earlier that the Torah that we got, Moshe says to us, the Torah that you got is not just for your parents, it's not just for you, it's for all your descendants. So what does it have to do with us? What does the Levi tribe getting a piece of the land have to do with us? Because we already know, number one, we don't know who all the tribes are today. The land is not divided up that way today. We have to wait until Mashiach comes, Bezrat Hashem. So what does it have to do with today? So here the Rambam says in Halacha, number 10 to 13, he says a few things. So the entire tribe of Levi are commanded against receiving an inheritance. I mean, they weren't even allowed to get an inheritance, even if they wanted to, or they wanted to negotiate something. Weren't allowed. They were commanded against receiving a share in the spoils of when the cities were conquered. And then in Halakha number 12, in chapter 13, the Rambam says that why did the Levites now receive a portion in the inheritance of Eretz Yisrael and in the spoils of war like their brethren? Because they were set aside to serve God and minister unto Him and to instruct people at large in His just paths and righteous judgments. As it says in Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 10, they will teach your judgments to Yaakov and your Torah to Israel. And therefore, they were set apart from the ways of the world. They do not wage war like the remainder of the Jewish people. They do not, nor do they receive an inheritance, nor do they acquire for themselves through their physical power. Instead, they are God's legion. God has blessed His legion and He provides them. As the Torah says in the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 20, I am your portion and your inheritance. So here we see that the Levites have our nation within a nation, if you will. They have a special treatment. Hashem wants them to be the rabbis. Hashem wants them to be the scholars. Hashem wants them to be the leaders, the spiritual leaders of Am Yisrael. And He does not want them to spend any time whatsoever chasing big pieces of real estate and different pieces of land and negotiating in stock markets and all types of things. He doesn't want to do it. He wants them to be the spiritual leaders. And He says, just because you're going to be a rabbi doesn't mean you're going to be homeless. Just because you're going to be a Talmid Chacham doesn't mean you're not going to have food to eat. The opposite. Hashem will take care of you. Hashem will take care of you. Now, here we see that Hashem makes a very, very serious promise. Now, but this promise didn't start here. This promise actually already started the time of Yaakov Avinu. Originally, it was the firstborn sons. Firstborn sons were, in essence, the Levites at that time. They were the chosen ones. But then, when they sinned, Hashem gave that merit to the Levi tribe. But so we see one main thing that made the Levi tribe different is that throughout the whole time that we were in Egypt, the Levi tribes were the scholars, they were the spiritual leaders. And this answers the question that somebody asked, I think a week or two ago, and I didn't think we got to that question, but I saw it in the thread. They asked if the Midrash and the Gemara says that Am Yisrael, when they were in Egypt, each birth were 6 babies. How come there's not 6 Moshe Rabbeinus? This actually answers that question. Why? Because the Torah says that the blessing of getting the 6 babies per birth was, in essence, not only to reproduce Am Yisrael, but also as a burden on the Egyptians. Like the more they hate us, the more they put burden on us, the more they enslaved us, the more they saw us reproduce to be even more and more people. Now, the only people that were not enslaved were Moshe and Aaron and the Levi tribe, the rest of the Levi tribe. Why? Because one of the things that happened at the time that Yosef HaTzadik was the viceroy of Egypt is that he made a law, and you see this in the Torah. He made a law that there's a special, unique laws pertaining to the people of spirituality, to the religious leaders. This was a prophecy that he had to do this in order to protect Moshe Rabbeinu in the future, where Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron and all the Levites are not going to be slaves. That's why Moshe and Aaron were able to walk in and out of Egypt without anybody stopping them, because they weren't supposed to be slaves. It's not like, if technically, this is very simple to understand, because if everybody was supposed to be slaves in this one, so how would Aaron be excluded? Moshe used to be living in, you could explain by saying Moshe was part of the house of Paro when he grew up. But what about Aaron? Aaron was part of Am Yisrael. So how come Aaron was able to join him, go in and out? Because Am Yisrael was still slaves throughout that year. So how come he was able to go in and out? Because he was a Levi. And the Levites were not, they were the spiritual leaders, and therefore they were not serving as slaves. And therefore they did not get the blessing of having 6 children per birth. Meaning that, Aaron was born by himself. Miriam, born by herself. Moshe Rabbeinu, born by himself. They didn't get the blessing because they weren't slaves. So that's the explanation for that. But we see here that the Halakha says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants the Levis to be special people that are not burdening themselves with the ways of the world as far as money and chasing real estate and so on. And He will take care of their parnasah. Now what this, again, I still haven't answered the big question of what does this have to do with everybody of this generation. Not just the Levi tribe of this generation, but everybody of this generation. You read the next halakha by the Rambam, and in halakha number 13, chapter 13, halakha number 13, not only the Levi tribe, but any of the inhabitants of the world whose spirit generously motivates him and he understands with his wisdom to set himself aside and to stand before God to serve Him and minister to Him, and to know God, proceeding justly as God made him, removing from his neck the yoke of the many reckonings which people seek. He is sanctified as holy of holies. God will be his portion and heritage forever, and will provide what is sufficient for him in this world, like He provides for the priests of the Levites. And thus King David declared in Psalm 16 verse 5, God is the lot of my portion, you are my cup, you support my lot. So here, the Rambam calls the scholars that dedicate their life to just learning Torah and not do anything else, where they're not looking to teach Torah for the sake of money, they're not looking to learn Torah for the sake of money, they're simply looking to do live the Torah life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without any exceptions. They are looking to simply serve Hashem because that is what Hashem wants. The Rambam calls them Kodesh Kodashim, holy of holies. And these are the people that will get whatever they need from Hashem. Whatever they need from Hashem. So this actually is to have such a blessing. He says you don't have to be from the Levi tribe. Anybody could do it. Anybody that wants to be an avrech, anybody that wants to be a full-time Torah student can get this blessing. Now, of course, the blessing comes with tests. The blessing comes with a price. You don't just become considered holy of holies in the eyes of Hashem just because you don't feel like going to work all day and you want to watch videos. It doesn't work that way. Meaning, if a person really dedicates themselves 100% to for the sake of heaven to learn Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu will give them whatever they need. Will give them whatever they need, and how are they going to get whatever they need? Through different people. Hashem is going to use different messengers to help them. Whether it's a person that's going to donate to them, a person that's going to give to them, they're going to find something, they're going to inherit something. There's countless different ways that you get to see and meet different Talmidei Chachamim throughout your life, and you get to see how each and every single one of them is literally a walking miracle. And you see that some of these avrechim, they're doing well. They own a house or an apartment in Yerushalayim or different places in Israel. That's fully paid off, no mortgage. They have, Baruch Hashem, a house full of children, everything that they need, and still the salary that they get from the kollel is still the same measly $500-600 that they get from the kollel. They get $100 from the government. They used to get $200, but people made a big deal out of it, so now they get $100. Like, what are you going to do with $100? That's what all the cry out that people have against the religious people milking the government. Oh, they're taking so much money from the government. What were they getting from the government? We're getting 800 shekels a month. That's it. The guy's learning, from morning to night every single day, and he gets 800 shekels a month. How much is 800 shekels a month? It's a little over $200. Now this Avigdor Yimach Shemo V'Zichro lowered it to $100. Lowered it to 370 shekels, which is a little over $100. That's what an avrech with a family of 8, 10 people, that's what he gets from the government, and people are, still up in arms about it. But if you're a terrorist, if you're a Palestinian terrorist, and you kill Jews, then the government gives you 3,000 shekels plus a month. Like, it actually pays to kill Jews. in the Israel. Because if you kill Jews in the name of the Palestinians, then you get a few thousand shekels a month. Your family gets a few thousand shekels a month while you're in jail, and so on. But if you're an avrech, tzaddik, learn Torah, kodesh kodeshim, no. You, only 100 shekels, we don't even want you in this country. That's obviously the communist mentality that you have, unfortunately, in the secular government. Why is all of this happening, Rabotai? Because the next part of the parasha says, V'ata Yisrael, Ma Adonai Elohecha shoel mi'imach, ki im li'ir'a et Adonai Elohecha, ללכת בכל דרכיו ולאהבה אותו ולעבוד את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבביך בכל נפשך לשמור את מצוות אדוני ואת חוקותיו אשר אנוכי מצווך היום לטוב לך הן לאדוני אלוהיך השמיים ושמי השמיים הארץ וכל אשר בה. Here, this particular verse it's if for anybody that has read the Chumash, they didn't need my help to tell them that the Manis Friedmans of the world that tell you that God needs you, or all of these Care Bear Erev Rav rabbis that tell you that you could do whatever you want, you don't need me for that. Why? You read this verse, you understand exactly why they're all heretics. All the people that say that Hashem needs you, or that you could do whatever you want, Hashem is going to forgive you no matter what you do, this particular verse destroys all of that. Why? If you understood the Hebrew, Ashrecha. If you didn't understand the Hebrew, we'll give you a translation. Chapter 10, in Parashat Ekev, Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verse number 12 until 14, says, Now, O Israel, what does Hashem your God ask of you? Only to fear Hashem your God, to go in all his ways, and to love him. Notice that the fear came first. And to serve Hashem, your God, with all your heart and with all your soul, to observe the commandments of Hashem and his decrees, which I commanded you today for your benefit. Notice he doesn't tell you you could do whatever you want. You want to show Hashem that you fear him, you want to show Hashem that you love him, you want to show Hashem that you're serving him, you have to fulfill the commandments. There's no such thing as I'm religious in my heart. I'm spiritually connected, but I don't keep Shabbat. There's no such thing. You have to fulfill the Torah as the Torah says. It says you have to observe the commandments of Hashem and his decrees. What's the commandments and the decrees? Why two things? You have the written Torah and the oral Torah. That I command you today for your benefit. This is all for your good. When you don't think it's for your good, there's something wrong. Behold, to Hashem your God are the heaven and the highest heaven, the earth and everything that is in it. This particular verse number 14 cancels out the Manis Friedman ideology, which says that God needs you. Why? Here you have an outright verse where Hashem says outright. For anybody that doesn't understand, I'll explain it in simple English. I don't need you, nor do I need your mitzvot. Why? Hen la'Adonai Elohecha shamayim u'shmei shamayim. Everything is Hashem's. Everything is Hashem. You are Hashem's. You belong to Hashem. To Hashem your God are the heavens and the highest heaven. The earth and everything that's in it. Everything is His. He doesn't need you or your mitzvot or anything. Anyone that tells you otherwise is 100% an apikos. Is an apikos. But that's unfortunately one of the things that people don't understand, is that when you are going to go and teach Torah, you have to make sure that you're not just teaching Torah based on your own understanding. You have to learn Torah. You have to learn Torah from the sages of past, and you have to learn Torah from the Chachamim of today. And that's one of the things that one of the Gdolei Ador, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, in a letter that he wrote me, he says, he teaches, there's a Dvar Torah, of course, in it, that B'ezrat Hashem will publish it next week, Bli Neder, but he says the following. He gives a Limut Torah in this letter. He says, this is the path where light dwells. Meaning he's about Rav Yitzchak Yosef, one of the Gdolei Ador, the Rishon LeZion, and the chief Sephardic rabbi, says the following. This is the path where light dwells. that a person should acquire for himself a lot of Torah, pure fear of God, and be dedicated to the study of Musar and the correction of character traits. He must humbly consult with the sages of the Torah, not talking about just the sages of the past, but sages of today, which we'll emphasize in a moment again. He must consult with the sages of the Torah, this is called shimush, and make sure that his hand does not move out of their hand. And only when his time coincides with knowledge does he set out to teach Torah to others. Meaning you can't just decide, just because you like to watch Shiurei Torah, you decide you're going to go teach Torah to people. You can't just decide because you read a few books, you're going to go teach people whatever you understand. It doesn't work that way. You have to have somebody make sure that your knowledge is correct. You have to make sure that somebody is your constant guide to tell you when you're wrong, when you're right, what which way to go, right or left. And that's one of the things that you see that's very common with people that go off completely, is that the one common denominator is that they don't have anybody that they report to. They don't have a rabbi. They don't have an authority figure in their life. They're their own boss. They're their own boss. And in the world of Torah, there is no such thing. If you want to be a kosher Jew, you want to be a kosher teacher, you want to be a kosher student, you have to have a rabbi. That's what the Mishnah in Avot is. The Mishnah says, Aseh lecha, make yourself a rabbi. And not just say, no, I'll make myself a rabbi, Rambam is my rabbi. No, Habib. You can't just say the Rambam is a rabbi. You have to have a posek as a rabbi, someone that you're going by the halachot, which Am Yisrael goes by the Shulchan Aruch, and whatever the Shulchan Aruch did not cover by Rabbi Yosef Karo and the Ramah, then we paskin based on the Rambam. That's generally how it goes. And of course, you have the modern day poskim that elaborate on things that are relevant to today that were not discussed in the Shulchan Aruch because of the technology and the advancements of things. But generally speaking, the blueprint of law for Am Yisrael is the Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam. That's the main things. Of course, there are Rishonim, there's Gemara, there's Mishnah, there's a lot of different things. But nobody paskins, no one that's a kosher Jew, paskins based on the Mishnah or the Gemara or whatever they feel like it. No one does that. If someone does that, is considered a bull and an am haaretz, and most likely a rasha. A bull is somebody who doesn't know anything, an ignoramus, and a wicked person. But that's unfortunately one of the things that people don't understand. You can't just pick and choose whoever you want to listen to. You can, and decide what you're going to do. One young guy tells me, listen, I'm Sephardic, and a lot of things I hold by Rabbi Ovadia, but certain things I hold by somebody else, a different poskim that I have in my house. You can't just decide that, no, I'm going to hold by Rabbi Ovadia whenever I feel like it. It doesn't work that way. You have to have a rabbi. That's a posek, number one. Number two, you have to have a living rabbi. A living rabbi that's going to guide you. A living rabbi that you're going to ask questions. A living rabbi that you're going to listen to everything he says. That's what you have to have. Aseh lecha. It's not a suggestion, it's an obligation. And unfortunately, many times you see these people that are perhaps well known on the internet, well known in their community, but they do things that are against the Masoret, against the Torah, against all the traditions and so on. Why? Because they are their own boss. They don't have any fear whatsoever, not of God, not of rabbis, not of anything. Why? Because they think that they're right. And that's one of the things what the Rishon LeZion here discusses. He says, not only do you have to consult humbly with the sages of the Torah, with Torah scholars, but you have to make sure that the hand does not move out of their hand. And only when his time coincides with knowledge does he set out to teach Torah to others. He doesn't just decide, no, Rabbi, I'm going to start giving a shiur every Tuesday to in my shul. Did your rabbi say it's okay? Oh, I didn't ask him. Oh, you just decided to just go give shiurim? That's it? You just decided? Yeah. What's the big deal? Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that kiruv? Yeah, it could be if you know what you're doing, and but what if you don't know? What if you're wrong? No, all I'm doing is I'm just learning Gemara with them. But who says that you're understanding the Gemara the right way? Who says that you understand the Musar the right way? You have to know that you have to be very, very careful. Why? Because people's lives are at risk. But that's why Moshe Rabbeinu starts with, what is Hashem really asking of you but to fear Hashem? It all starts with fear of Hashem. That's what the Mishnah in Avot says. A person that is fear, his fear is the priority in his life, his wisdom will be fulfilled. But as a person that considers his wisdom the priority is and has no fear, his wisdom will not be fulfilled. So then the Rishon LeZion, Rabbi Tzchak Yosef, continues, and he says, then his heart can be confident that a mishap is certainly not going to come about through him. So when a person has a rabbi that he listens to, and even rabbis that he listens to about different specific things, and people that are not just his friends, people that have no bias whatsoever, no agenda, no anything else. They're simply people that have da'at Torah. A person that listens to that, you know that you're going to go in the right direction, you have nothing to fear. And then the Rishon LeZion says this, which was shocking to see this, they write this in a letter to me. He included something very extraordinary. He says, contrary to what happens in our generation, an orphan generation with people who have not yet read and reviewed their own studies properly, and especially did not serve Torah scholars sufficiently, yet they go out to lead congregations publicly and step on the heads of the holy nation. He says, look at what happened to this orphan generation that has no one to report to. They don't want to report to any rabbi. Even if the rabbi is the biggest chacham in the world, they still don't want to listen to him. So what happens with this orphan generation? They have themselves, the rabbis themselves of this generation many times themselves haven't studied enough, don't have enough knowledge, but they go and they not only start communities on their own, and lead congregations on their own without any worry whatsoever. But on top of it, they arrogantly step on the leaders of the generation while they're in the process. Not stepping on the leaders by taking people's jobs, but stepping on the leaders by saying, no, nobody knows anything except me. And he says, worst of all is that they arrogantly say, I will reign. Every one of them thinks they're the biggest chacham. There's this one idiot in New York, I forget his name, Shem Rashaim Yirkav anyway. He decided that he's a Nazir. He's a Nazir. There's no Nazirim anymore, but he decided he's a Nazir. He's a Nazarite. And because he's a Nazarite, he doesn't have to put on tefillin anymore. Doesn't put on tefillin. He tells his community in New York not to put on tefillin anymore. This is, the Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah says, a Jew that does not put on tefillin is one of the people that goes to Gehenom and never comes out. But this Rasha Merusha says, no, I'm a Nazir. You don't need to put on tefillin if you're a Nazir. Complete stupidity. Now, it didn't start that way. He originally started by being one of these people that goes against the Zohar and goes against everything that he doesn't agree with. He has nobody to report to. He has no rabbi. He's his own rabbi. He's his own God. He's his own everything. But he pretends to be a Jew. And this is unfortunately one of the things that happens in many places. And the people are unfortunately not knowledgeable enough or strong spiritually enough to really call him out and throw him in the garbage where he belongs. Or the people like him, like this Rasha Dweck from UK. Instead of firing this guy and throwing him into a sewer, what do? They pay him $1.5 million a year to be the rabbi in the congregation over there in England. It's the most moronic thing in the world. You pay a guy that was thrown out of New York because he's a heretic, thrown out of his own Syrian community in New York because he's a heretic, but you give him a job and pay him $1.5 million a year to what? To read you Fiddler on the Roof and 50 Shades of Grey and all types of heretical books. His first book that he recommended in the book club is a book that an atheist wrote. I mean, a rabbi. Like if an atheist organization is recommending an atheist book, okay, good, he's doing his job. But a rabbi is recommending a book that was written by a famous atheist? Like, this is unfortunately what happened. Today when you have people treat the synagogue, treat the Bet Midrash like a social club, they don't have the intellectual wherewithal or the spiritual wherewithal to even know who the right rabbi is. And the rabbis themselves, unfortunately, as the Rishon LeZion himself is saying, many times, not all the time, of course, there's many good rabbis, but many times you'll find that these Manis Friedmans of the world and Mezas of the world and Dwecks and all these other people, they were not something that just appeared in the world. they've always been bad, they've always been off for a long period of time, and they've just gotten worse over time, and the damage continues to grow. The damage continues to grow, and instead of recognizing the fact that they're, not doing what the Torah says, instead they mock it. They mock it, they make fun of it, they step on more Torah leaders, they make fun of more Torah scholars. And that's in essence what the Rishon LeZion is saying here, is that each one is arrogantly saying, I will reign. And moreover, he writes, they publicly disagree with the Torah scholars whose smallest finger is thicker than their waist. There are some who even dare to disagree with extreme arrogance against the Gdolei Ador, the greatest rabbis of the generation, who when they rise, even lions are frightened, both in matters of halacha and matters of hashkafa. May the good God forgive them. He says here, some of these people are so arrogant that they start a community even if they don't even have enough knowledge themselves. He says some are even worse. Some are even saying, no, I'm the Gadol Ador. I disagree with the biggest, the rabbi of the city. He said some are so horrible they do it publicly, like Mesa. They go against the biggest rabbis in the world. Not just the rabbis of this generation, but they'll go against the Gemara rabbis, no, they're just Amoraim. They're just Amoraim. Oh, he's just a Rishon. The Rambam, he's just a Rishon. It's just a Midrash. They treat them like they're commoners in a supermarket. He says these people have no idea what they're dealing with, but instead of recognizing their weaknesses, they actually they tell people that their weaknesses are their strengths, and they literally disagree with the Gdolei Ador of all the generations publicly. Like, if your foolish and arrogance was at least inside your own house, and only your wife had to suffer, okay, listen, at least the damage is contained. But unfortunately, these people are so foolish and so arrogant that they publicize their stupidity. Like, the world would have never known how stupid they are if they wouldn't have opened their mouth. But unfortunately, because people do not learn enough Torah, and they compare the speakers they listen to every other speaker out there, the self-help gurus and the coaches and the businessman speakers, they compare the rabbis to them also based on simply whether they connect to their voice and their speech pattern, and that's how they determine who they're going to listen to for spiritual advice in accordance to the Torah. And unfortunately, this is the weakness of many, many communities. This is the weakness of many, many people around the world, is that they don't have enough knowledge to even know what they don't know and how to make the right choices. Hence the reason why the Rishon LeZion is saying here is that it's important for each and every single one of us to know. You have to have fear of the Almighty if you're going to be a kosher Jew. Whether you're male or female, doesn't matter. You have to have fear of the Almighty. Where does he get it from? He gets it from this week's parasha, as one of the countless places in the Torah it talks about fear of Hashem. What does Hashem want from you? Fear of Hashem. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat uses this verse from this week's parashat Ekev. It says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world only for you to fear Him. That's it. That's it. Only for you to fear Him. What's one of the proofs? One of the proofs is the Re'emim. Gemara Masechet Bachot says the Re'emim, the thunder. Thunder. What does thunder do? You say, thunder makes noise. Okay, thunder makes noise. Thank you very much for telling us the thunder makes noise. But what does it do in the world? Like Hashem obviously created the thunder, created lightning, created wind, created the water, created air, created you, me, created everything. Obviously, He has infinite wisdom. He didn't create anything with no wisdom. He created everything with wisdom. That's why it says, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz. Hashem created the world with wisdom. Bereshit, the Ramban says, is bechokhmah, the wisdom. So Hashem created everything with wisdom, meaning that everything has a purpose. What is the purpose of thunder? Tell me, what's the purpose of thunder? You don't need to be a scientist or a genius. Tell me the purpose of thunder. What does it do in the world? It makes noise. Great, thank you very much for making noise. Tell me something else that it does in the world. Why would Hashem create thunder? It doesn't create any energy. No one eats it. No one drinks it. No one breathes it. No one can see it. What is the point of thunder? You know what the point of thunder is? To scare you. That's the only point of thunder. That is the ultimate and only point of why HaKadosh Baruch Hu created thunder. For you to be scared. Why would Hashem want you to be scared? Because that's how you will be able to serve Him. If you hear thunder where it literally sounds like Hashem is breaking the world, it makes you think of Hashem. It makes you think of Hashem. It makes you think, maybe, you know what, I got to do tshuva. So we see here that the notion that fear of the Almighty is not a good way to serve God is literally antithetical to the Torah, because it is the main way to serve God. It is the ultimate way to serve God. It is the only way to serve God. And only after you fear Him will you be able to even love Him. But before you fear Him, you don't even know what love is. And that's one of the things that we could learn from Parashat Ekev, as one of the many, many other things, Be'ezrat Hashem.
אני מברך את הרבנים, רגע. אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל מה שיפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכו לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הודיעו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.
בעזרת השם רשת בכל הארץ. הוא היהודי הזה, הוא היה מיליונר, סגר את כל הביזנס, אמר אני משקיע פה בעולמה של תורה.
איפה הוא גר?
בפלורידה.
פלורידה, איפה זה פלורידה? באמריקה.
במיימי. כן, ליד. אנחנו שם עכשיו הולכים להקים קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
תעביר לו מה שבירכתי אותו.
כן, קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
With that being said, you guys can start asking some questions. There's some stories, there's some other material, but I'm sure you guys have some questions, as I see here from the thread. There's some people writing stuff. So let's see what you guys have to say. I'm going to take a drink. I already made a blessing before. Let's see. Baruch is asking, okay. Rabbi, is it okay to play golf, or is it frivolous? If you're playing golf during the week, Monday to, I don't know, during the week, not on Shabbat, not on holidays, you're allowed to play golf. There's nothing wrong with playing golf. There's nothing wrong with playing soccer. There's nothing wrong with playing basketball if you need some exercise. There's nothing wrong with it per se, as long as you don't make it your life, as long as you don't start turning it into some form of idolatry, as long as you don't play more golf or more soccer or more basketball than you're learning Torah. So you should have a thing in your mind where if I'm going to play golf for 2 hours, or basketball or football or whatever I'm going to play to get some exercise, to network, to whatever the purpose is behind the game is, if I'm going to do that for 2 hours, that means I'm going to learn for 2 hours, learn Torah for 2 hours. So that's an important thing. Of course, you also have to take into account that you're not going to violate the Torah through this game. The game, it's okay for you to play a sport as long as it doesn't lead you to sinning. But once a person starts, playing on Shabbat, basketball, you have a very serious problem. Many of the poskim say that a ball is a muktzeh. It's not allowed on Shabbat for an adult. That's number one. Number two, the Gemara in the Yerushalmi, Masechet Shabbat, says that Hashem destroyed a city because people would play a ball on Shabbat. So that's unfortunately one of the things that happens today, especially in the modern Orthodox communities, is that people have taken the leniency of children playing with the ball and you're using it for the adults, and I've even seen rabbis play basketball on Shabbat. So it's very important to know that you're allowed to play sports, but you're not allowed to desecrate Shabbat with it. You're not allowed to make it your life. You're not allowed to do it on days that you're supposed to be serving Hashem on an even higher level. If you are doing it on a non-holy day, a simple, regular day, and you're not going to start watching it avidly on TV or something and spending hours following it and things like that, you're simply just going to use it for exercise. There's nothing wrong with it, and it's even good for you to do it if that's how you're going to get your exercise. Because even the Rambam paskins that it's good for a person to get exercise. He's fulfilling a mitzvah. Ushamartem et nafshotechem me'od. That you have to keep yourself healthy. So it's good. If you're going to get your exercise playing a sport, it's perfectly fine. But once you become a fan of the sport, which comes from the word fanatic, meaning that you start watching the sport every day, you start playing video games of the sport, and you start playing the sport every day, and so on and so forth, then it becomes problematic ideologically, because it starts getting your mind to a point where you're constantly going to be speaking about the sport, thinking about the sport, playing the sport, and so on and so forth. It's going to be very, very hard for you to live a life of a Jew of Torah when something else is taking so much of your time and mental prowess. So a person needs to know that again, it's okay to get exercise and even good to get exercise, but everything that you want to do has to be done in a kosher way. You're allowed to do almost everything in the world, practically everything in the world, but there's a kosher way to do everything. There's a kosher way to do everything, and that's actually one of the things the Chachamim say, is that both the person that observes the Torah and the person that desecrates the Torah are going to get paid. They're both going to get paid for the same exact things. The guy that observes the Torah is going to get paid a reward for his intimacy. Why? Because he was intimate with his wife when she was pure. The guy that was desecrating the Torah, he's also going to get paid a punishment for all the intimacy he made with his wife or with women that weren't his wife because they were not pure. There was nidah, there were goyot, there were married women, and so on and so forth. So he'll get paid a punishment for every one of them. They both are getting paid for intimacy, but one is getting paid for the reward, one is getting paid a punishment. They're both going to get paid for food. The guy that's observing of the Torah will get paid a mitzvah every time he made a blessing for the food. Every bite that he took, he's fulfilling a mitzvah and is eating his kosher food. He's going to get rewarded for all of that food, all of that coffee, all of the things that he ate that's kosher with a blessing. He's going to get rewarded for all of it. The other guy will also get paid, but he'll get a punishment. Punishment for eating all the non-kosher food, for eating food without a blessing, without an initial blessing, without an ending blessing. Eating food with to the point where it becomes disgusting already, without manners, and so on and so forth. So he'll get paid and he'll get paid. One's get paid a reward, one's get paid a punishment. One guy is going to get paid for the money that he made. The other guy's going to get punished for the money that he made. Why? He'll get paid rewards for the money that he made because he made it in a kosher way. He sold the good, he gave people what he promised, he delivered on his promise, he had a word and he kept it. He said he's going to call you on Wednesday, and he did call you on Wednesday. He said he's going to charge you $7,500, and that's what he charged you, $7,500. Not that after you paid him the $7,500, suddenly he wants $15,000. Because now he knows that there's no way for you to get the $7,500 and you need his service. No, he did everything straight. He was a straight shooter and he did what he said, and he's going to get rewarded for every single business dealings that he did in a kosher way. The other guy will get punished for every single transaction that he did in a non-kosher way. He stole from people, he sold them refurbished products as new, he sold them things that were stolen, he stole from his customers, he overcharged them obnoxiously in his cash advance business, ripping people off, giving them predatory products, and so on and so forth. He will get punished for every single dollar that he took from people, for every shekel that he took from people, and for every penny that he left in this world that's stolen money. He's going to have to come back as a reincarnation to pay it back. So it is an enormous, enormous punishment that person is going to get for all of the business dealings that he's going to get. And that's, in essence, one of the biggest punishments that a person gets in the next world is for his business dealings. And that's why the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, I think it's page 31a, says that the first or second question that they ask a person in Shamayim is, did you conduct your business with emunah in Hashem? Meaning, did you conduct your business honestly with yirat shamayim, with fear of the Almighty, with an understanding that Hashem is watching every business transaction? Or you were one of these people that just did whatever you felt like it, doesn't matter if it's kosher, non-kosher, as long as the money goes in my pocket. So a person literally will get punished for every single business transaction that he had, for every dollar that went into his pocket, for everything that he did. Shem Yishmor v'Yatzil, if a person just was in business a lot, and it's literally that alone. Forget desecrating Shabbat and married women and immodesty. Just the business dealings alone is literally like an endless Gehenom for most people, just because of how they conduct their business. So that's what the Chachamim say. A person will get paid for everything, either paid reward or paid punishment. If a person used that exercise of golf or basketball, whatever, in order to be healthier, in order to serve Hashem better, in order to learn more Torah as a result of it, and so on, he'll get rewarded for that exercise as a mitzvah. If he turned his golf or baseball or football or whatever, basketball, into something that's a priority over Torah, he'll get punished for every basket that he made and every kick that he made. Every time he played on Shabbat, he'll get punished for it, for desecrating Shabbat. And literally the punishment is endless. And that's one of the things that a person that understands that in this world, the price we pay for mistakes could literally feel like it's endless. Needless to say, the price that a person can pay in the next world is it could be endless. Why? Because look at these three young kids. They wanted to do something good. They made a mistake. They went to Nigeria, literally at a time where there is a civil war. Literally a civil war. For anybody that hasn't learned about the Biafra Jews, you could just go on YouTube and type in Biafra Jews. There's a very, really nice documentary about the whole civil war that's been going on for the last 60 plus years. Really a big tragedy. It's a Holocaust. Over 1 million Biafran Jews have been murdered in cold blood. Even some of them not being Jews, but nonetheless, over 1 million people have been murdered in cold blood over the last 60 years or so. And one of the people that was actually in prison with Rudy is a woman that's still actually in prison now. They didn't release her. She's a Nigerian woman that's part of the leaders in the community, and they didn't release her. B'ezrat Hashem, they'll release her. And B'ezrat Hashem, the shiur will be for her merit for them to release her also. But nonetheless, these guys went to Nigeria to do something good. They wanted to do a documentary recording the history and the culture of the Jews that lived, that really most of the Western society does not know much about, the Biafran Jews. So that's what they did. They decided that they're going to go do a movie, but they did bad timing, and they almost lost their lives because of it. They certainly lost their freedom for almost 3 weeks. They almost lost their lives. Surely they're traumatized for the rest of their life because of what they went through. Hashem only knows what they went through over the last few weeks in there. And their lives will never be the same. And that's literally for a decision that had they gone there 2 weeks earlier, everything would have been different. But something happened literally about a week before this thing happened. One of the guys that's against the government over there, went into the scene. I'm not going to go into that whole scene. I'm sure you can read about it. Long story short, worst possible timing in the world. A person that literally wants to cross a street. He could have crossed a street 5 million times in his life. But he crosses a street one time at the wrong time. That's it. It could be the end of his life. So a person understands that sometimes it doesn't require much for you to have a punishment that is endless. So, needless to say, a person should use his brain to understand that if you make certain sins, not just one time, but on a regular basis, constantly sin against Hashem, constantly go against Hashem, over a long period of time, throughout your life, for years, for decades, surely the punishment is going to be much heavier than the punishment that you would have gotten in this world. Surely the punishment in an infinite world by an infinite God is much greater than a world that this infinite God created to be finite. So a person that uses their brain has no problem in understanding the infinite punishment potential that they could have for desecrating Shabbat or wasting seed or not putting on tefillin and so on. There's no problem for them to understand that. Why? Because they understand with simple logic that even a mistake, a small mistake of timing in this world that's finite, that's limited, can cost you decades of your life. Decades of suffering, decades of agony, decades of a lot of things. Like, even if you don't want to consider HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mighty hand in my own personal life, which I know is his presence in my life, Baruch Hashem, 24 hours a day. Baruch Hashem, I feel his hand on me at all times. I love HaKadosh Baruch Hu even when he's hurting me, because I know it's for me. But nonetheless, even if you don't think about it from that perspective, and you think about it from a stupid perspective of the atheist, and you say, listen, he got a surgery, November 18, 2006, that's an elective surgery you don't even have to do, you don't even need to do, you don't even, part of you didn't even want to do it, but nonetheless, the simple surgery, literally, millions of people get the surgery, 3 out of 4 people have it, it's not a problem. So worst case scenario, surgery doesn't work and you get another one, what's the worst thing that can happen? How could a surgery turn a life upside down and cause permanent pain for 2 decades? Like, how could such a thing happen? And not even pain that's related to the original pain. Something completely not related. Legs, head, back, so on and so forth. How could it be? How could a person have fire go through his veins as a result of a surgery that has nothing to do with it? How could it be? What, bad timing? Only a stupid person thinks like that. Obviously, a person needs to understand that you have a Kadosh Baruch Hu's hand in everything. Kadosh Baruch Hu's hand in everything. And simply a decision to do something at a specific time, for one person could mean salvation, for another person could mean literally decades, if not an entire lifetime, or even an eternity of punishment and agony and pain. So when a person evaluates the decisions they're going to make in life, whether it's to play golf, or it's to eat something, or to marry somebody, or so on, if they have a lot of Torah in their life, they're going to think about it extensively, but not just based on what they want and need now, but rather what they want and need forever. Everything is based on forever in a Jewish person's life. Everything. Nothing is based on today. The more you base your decisions based on today, the less Judaism you're practicing. Because as a Jew, everything is based on forever. Everything. If you're basing your decisions based on momentary desires and so on, you're not basing your decision is not based on your Judaism. It's based on your lust and desires for stuff, and that's unfortunately going to lead you to bad places in many cases, in most cases. So if you make your decisions the right way, you ask questions like you're asking now, and so on and so forth, you're going in the right track, and Be'ezrat Hashem, you'll succeed. Next question. Is a Kohen allowed to marry a Levi? Yeah, Kohen's allowed to marry a Levi. The Kohen is not allowed to marry a widow, not allowed to marry a convert, not allowed to marry a divorcee. That's who he's not allowed to marry. He's not allowed to marry a woman that was intimate with a non-Jew. So, but if the woman is a Levi, or she's Israel, and she's none of those other things I just described. She's not a widow. She's not a convert. Obviously, she can't be a convert. She's not someone that was intimate with a non-Jew. She's not someone that's a divorcee. Then the Kohen can marry her, no problem. Michael is asking, is being like Aaron pursuing Shalom limited to between Shomer Shabbat Jews and like Shmirat HaLashon? Was wondering was wondering me with these heretics and people who follow them, how far is one obligated to reach out to pursuit of shalom? The obligation to pursue shalom is with people that are considered part of amitecha. Amitecha, that a person is obligated to love his brother in mitzvot. That's what amitecha is. So if a person is Shomer Shabbat Jew and is not a heretic, then obviously you have to pursue shalom. But if a person desecrates Shabbat, or he serves an idol, or things that remove him from the classification of being part of the Amitecha, part of the Jewish people, then you have no obligation to pursue shalom with them, but you still should try the best you can to help the person. You shouldn't pursue war with people. You should pursue shalom with them, but not at the cost of the Torah. Meaning, if they are desecrating the Torah, you need to help them and pursue shalom with them by telling them the truth, even if that truth hurts them a little bit, even if that truth sounds offensive. You know, if, let's say, for example, you saw somebody that was about to drink poison, you're going to start telling them, don't do it. And if they yell at you and tell you, don't tell me what to do, are you just going to walk away and let them drink the poison? No. The more you love the person, the more you're going to fight to get them to stop drinking the poison. Even if you have to punch them, even if you have to tackle them, just not to drink that poison. Why? Because you know if they drink the poison, they're going to die. So poison is just going to kill their body in this world. Desecrating Shabbat is going to kill their body permanently. So a person needs to understand that by you rebuking your brother in different ways, telling him that he's not allowed to desecrate Shabbat, or giving him a lecture that discusses Shabbat, or different ways to teach him the truth, even if that truth is negates his ideology, and even gets him riled up, and even gets him to disagree with you and argue with you, you are pursuing shalom. You are pursuing shalom because you are pursuing shalom with them permanently. Now, if a person is constantly rejecting what you're doing, but he's still receptive to it, keep going. Keep going, keep going. But if he is violent, he starts hitting you or something like that, then you don't have to rebuke him anymore. You don't have to rebuke him anymore. Some say if he threatens to hit you, that's already enough for you to stop rebuking him. But nonetheless, by you telling people to do tshuva, you are pursuing shalom. That is the ultimate shalom. Shalom with them permanently, because if they die the next day and you never told them anything and they die the next day, you're going to feel bad. Why? Because you know that they're going to a Gehenom that doesn't end. So you're not going to be at shalom. Robert is asking, how can one practically hate a person's sins without hating the person, if sometimes it seems that they're intertwined, as for example, a hater of Hashem? Hater of Hashem, generally speaking, is a person that is either so bitter they can't see straight, they had such a difficult life, full of agony and pain, people broke their heart and they're traumatized and different things, they can't even see straight. They can't even see the difference between good and bad. They're in essence like a drunk person. So a person like that, simply you feel bad for them and try to get them to see the good that Hashem is giving them slowly but surely. That's usually most people that are haters of Hashem. Other people that are haters of Hashem are people that simply don't know anything about Him. They were just taught by lefty, liberal, communists that God is bad and he's just a figment of your imagination to take away your freedom to do whatever you want, your animal freedom. So obviously these people are sick people. You should feel bad for them. If the person is a hater of Hashem, knowing about Hashem, and they still are like Titus from that declared war against God with the rest of his nation, the Romans, or the people that are the public displayers of heresy, like these Christian missionaries, so-called Messianic Jews, atheists, and so on and so forth. People like that, there is a no hating the sin. There's a mitzvah to hate that person altogether. The hating the sin part is hating a person that is simply sinning out of ignorance, not a person that's sinning with knowledge. If he's sinning with knowledge, you hate the person. It's a mitzvah to hate him. But if it's a person that's sinning out of ignorance, meaning he's driving on Shabbat because he doesn't realize the magnitude of the sin. He doesn't even realize that Hashem says don't drive on Shabbat. That person, you hate the sin, not the person. Why? Because that person is simply ignorant. He's like a little baby. He's like a little baby. He doesn't even know Aleph Bet. So if he mispronounces a word, you're not going to yell at him. You know, it's like you just imagine if the person had some mental disability and he misspelled something, you're going to yell at him? No, obviously, because he's a mental disability. Same concept with a lot of these ignorant people. They're so ignorant, they don't even know that what they're doing is wrong. So there's no purpose of hating them personally. You hate the sin. But if the person is a constant, is aware of the truth, but rejects it, fights it, hates it, and so on, it's a mitzvah to hate the person, not just the sin. Yonah is asking, is eating unkosher cow meat just as bad as eating pork, or is eating pork worse? No, they're both sins from the Torah. Both sins from the Torah. And both obviously will lead a person to become spiritually stupid, and both will lead a person to go to Gehenom if he doesn't do tshuva. And actually, the Baal HaTanya, the founder of Chabad, he has a whole section in his Tanya that talks about the Gehenom that people go to for eating non-kosher meat. He says they go to a unique type of Gehenom for eating non-kosher meat. Charlie's asking, what are the differences in judgment between when you die and when you get resurrected? This topic requires a shiur. There is multiple judgments that a person will have to deal with. There's a judgment that he has to deal with at Rosh Hashanah. There's a judgment that he has to deal with on the day that he dies. There's a judgment that he has to deal with when Mashiach comes and there's the resurrection of the dead. And there's a judgment at the end. But this is each type of judgment is based on the level that he was in and where level he's going into. But it requires a very intense explanation that's not the place right now to go through of what does it mean to get judged even when you're in heaven. Because if you explain it to the average person, to tell people that they're going to get judged for being in, when they're in heaven, most people will start losing their mind. So point is, there's different levels of judgment. It's like le'avdil, but like you have a video game, or you have the sports where they have, you have the regular season, then you have the playoffs, and then you have the semifinals and the finals and so on. And obviously, each one of these sections, the weight of the game carries different value. The weight of the games in the beginning of the season is very, very low. The weight of the games in the middle of the season is much higher, but still not considered the highest. The weight of the games at the end of the regular season are the most valuable because it's going to determine whether you go into the playoffs. Then you go into the playoffs. If you're in specific types of sports, it's a one game and one loss ends your playoff appearance, or one win. It doesn't mean that you're going to move to the next round. There's a whole series of games. So it depends what you're in. If you're in one of those sports where it's, let's say, a 5-game series or 7-game series, where it's the one that wins the most, the first one to win 3 games or 4 games or whatever it is, then that means that each game has a certain amount of value based on how you've done during the first few games. If you won the first 3 games and you only need to win one more game to get to the next round, but you have 4 games left, so you won 3 games, but if you lose one, it's not the end of the world. Why? Because you're still ahead of the curve. You're still ahead of the curve. But if you are 3-3 and it's the final game, that means that the judgment there is much heavier. The judgment there is much heavier. It's very similar to if you were in the finals. If you're in the finals, there is no tomorrow. you're in a final game. There's only one game. There's only one World Series. There's only one Super Bowl, and so on and so forth. There's only one game. So when you know there's only one game, everything is on the line. Therefore, the judgment for each move that you make within that game, each penalty kick, each pass, each everything, carries a lot more weight. Same concept with these judgments in the real world of a person's life. The judgment that they have on a day-to-day basis has a certain amount of weight. Judgment they have on a month-to-month basis has a certain amount of weight. Judgment that they have on an annual basis on Rosh Hashanah has a certain amount of weight. And there's actually 4 Rosh Hashanahs per year. Gemara, Maseret Rosh Hashanah, first chapter talks about the 4 different types of Rosh Hashanahs that there are. The main Rosh Hashanah that's for all of creation is Rosh Hashanah, the actual Rosh Hashanah, the holiday Rosh Hashanah. That's judgment for all of creation, where everything is decided. But there are certain things that are decided in 3 other times during the year. Point is that Rosh Hashanah has a lot of weight, but it does not have as much weight as, let's say, the judgment on the day that the person dies. That judgment is much, much more severe. He's judged the second that he dies of, how he's going to die, and how he's going to get buried, and when he's going to get buried, and where he's going to get buried, and how many beings he's going to get in the grave, and so on and so forth. And then where he's going to go, if he's going to go to Kafakela, or if he's going to go to Gan Eden, or Gehenom, and so on and so forth, and which Gehenom, and which Gan Eden, and which Kafakela. Woo! This is like, you can make a series of 1,000 lectures over this. It's not a simple subject. And then you have the judgment. There is, again, not the last judgment. You have the judgment of the resurrection of the dead after Mashiach comes. That's a judgment that some people that did not have the merit to see Mashiach during their life still have a judgment that they'll be able to be resurrected. But some people that had the merit to see Mashiach and also will be there. So, the point is that it's not the same type of judgment that you had on the day that you died. It's a different type of judgment. Why? Because over there you're already a righteous person. Just, do you have the merit to go and see the Mashiach too? Do you have the merit to go to a higher level of Gan Eden? And then even further than that is, do you have a merit to go to the permanent world that of Olam Haba, which is, again, in itself has levels. So these levels and so on are, it's very, very elaborate subject. I don't pretend to know all of it, but nonetheless, it is something I am aware of. And I know one Talmid Chacham, Rav Meir Eliyahu, did a whole series about a lot of different parts of the of that world. He has a whole series on Gehenom, a series on, I think he has a series on Gan Eden, a series on Kafakela, a series on different parts. Baruch Hashem, he's a very extraordinary Talmid Chacham, so he has a whole series about each one of them. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll get to that too. B'ezrat Hashem. Let's see. Next question. Joshua is asking, who decided the books that would be included in the Tanach? Well, the 5 books of Moses was Hashem decided that, and the rest of the books, the other 19 books, was on Knesset HaGedolah. The heads of the Sanhedrin, the heads of Am Yisrael decided those. But each one was written at different times. There was prophecies and so on. There was different prophets. And the Gemara in Masechet Megillah says that there were over 1 million prophets that Am Yisrael had throughout history. But the Tanach only includes 55 prophets. Why was only 55 selected in the Tanakh? Why didn't we have the prophecies of all the other ones? They also wrote books. There's also other books that are considered to have wisdom and even to have holiness, but they were not considered part of the Tanakh. There is Ben Sirah, that's the son of Jeremiah, the prophet. He has a book that was very similar to Shlomo HaMelech's Proverbs. And some Chachamim said you're not even allowed to read it, but other Chachamim said you're allowed to read it, but it's not for everyone. But nonetheless, it's a book, and it was not included in the Tanakh because they didn't believe that it was by Ruach HaKodesh or prophecy. It was by his wisdom, whereas the other books, they were inspired by Ruach HaKodesh or prophecy. But that was not enough to be counted among the 55 prophets or the 24 books of the Tanach. The way that the 24 books of the Tanach were selected, the Gemara in Masechet Megillah says, is that if the prophecies had to do with every generation, then it was included in the Tanach. But if it was only prophecies for people of that generation, then it was not included in the Tanach. Meaning that over 1 million prophets that we had throughout history, they told the people different prophecies. But those prophecies only had to do with the generation at that time. So there's no point of having that prophecy in our Tanakh, because the Tanakh is not a history book like some idiots think. The Tanakh is a book of laws. The whole Tanakh is a book of laws. Not just it has history in it, but that's not the priority. And the reason why you have the other 19 books, in addition to the 5 books of Moses, is because every single prophecy has to do with every generation until Mashiach. So when someone like the heretic Meza says that he thinks that what the prophets were talking about were only things that were relevant to the generation, then not only does it show that he's never learned Gemara, but in addition to that, he's an Am Haaretz, an ignoramus, and a heretic. Because we specifically have more than one Gemara say that the reason why the Tanakh was selected that way was not to give you a history lesson, but to give you the prophecies that will be useful for every single generation. And if a person studies the Tanakh well enough, he could learn literally an endless amount of things that are relevant to their own personal life, to their community, to society today, to society yesterday, to society tomorrow. There's an endless amount of secrets in the Torah. Endless, literally endless, with no exaggeration. And when a person understands that, every single verse in the Torah is a prophecy. Every verse. There is no this is a prophecy. Like the Christians think, there's only certain sections of the Torah that are talking about the prophecy of the tiger with the lion with the lamb, or no war. No, that's not the only prophecy. Every verse in the Tanakh is a prophecy. Every verse. You just need to know how to read it. You need to know how to interpret it, and so on and so forth. The Chachamim knew a lot more than we could ever imagine. That's why you have the giant among giants, Rashi, only in a handful of places in the entire Tanakh and the Gemara does he say, I don't know. Which means that everywhere else that he wrote commentary, he knew. So it's the Tanakh was constructed by people that were prophets, that had Ruach HaKodesh, that were not just wise people. The people that put it together were prophets that were talking to Hashem, or Hashem talked back to them. They had Ruach HaKodesh. It's not simple people. It's not simple people. It's not even just to say, it's smart people. It's not smart people. Smart is, you could find smart in every public school. You could find smart. I'm talking about smart. I'm talking about people that are not, in today's world, they wouldn't be considered even the same species. That's where their wisdom was. I mean, really, anyone that learns enough history about the discoveries of previous generations, even if you exclude the Torah world, if you just simply look at the discoveries and the abilities of mankind in the previous generation, you clearly see that people used to be much, much smarter than anybody in the world today. Much, much smarter. There's literally no comparison. I mean, if you look in the Torah world, it's even more obvious. Why? Because if you look at the amount of Torah that the Chida learned every single day, and you compare it to a great Torah Jew today, you can't compare. Why? He literally studied more Torah in one day than most people will study in an entire year. Honestly, you look at how much he studied, you don't even know how it's humanly possible to read that much in one day. Like it's just, even if you're a fast reader, you don't even understand how a person can learn that much Torah. It's not to us, it's not even comprehensible how. If you see what the Rabbi Nachman Breslev, or the Ramchal, or the Arizal, or the Rabbi Yosef Karo, all of these giants achieved over the last 200 to 500 years, in their lifetimes with the first few Ramchal, Rabbi Nachman, the Arizal living very, very short lives. And how much they achieved, how much Torah they learned and taught and wrote. I mean, it's literally unbelievable that a person can do such a thing in a single lifetime, needless to say, in 35, 40 years. The Rabbi Yosef Karo, I mean, he lived to an older age, but still, the amount of Torah that he learned and taught and wrote, no human being can do such a thing. The Rambam, just imagine, the Rambam wrote all of his books, the Mishneh Torah, in Arabic, just for one of his students. One of his students asked for a translation of the Mishneh Torah in Arabic. He wrote the whole Mishneh Torah in Arabic for him. Okay, so and he wrote it in Hebrew. I mean, that's not. He wrote commentary in the Mishnah. I mean, the amount of Torah that the Rambam wrote in a single lifetime, no human being in the world can do such a thing. No human being in the world can do such a thing. It's just simply not. And even the what they wrote, how they wrote, the clarity that they had, the amount of knowledge that they had. I'll give you an example. One simple example. Anybody that has the Me'am Loez collection of books, which are all commentary on the Tanach. It's a very, very good collection. Initially, it was written in Ladino, and then it was translated to English, and then later on translated to Hebrew. So the English collection is very, very popular, and the first several books were written by Rav Kuli. And now you see in the Me'am Loez the wisdom of different Chachamim that continued the books after him, but you also see the difference between Rav Kuli and the Chachamim that came after him. How do you see the difference? Without even looking at what's written. Okay? Obviously, if you see what's written, it's a world apart. But you see, and again, no disrespect to the Chachamim after. They were also Chachamim. They were also great. But if you compare the Bereshit, first few books, versus, let's say, Deuteronomy section, the last few books, it's literally a world apart. Not a world apart in just the style of writing. Not a world apart in just the knowledge, but just simply the sources. At the end of Bereshit, you'll see, at each one of the books, you'll see the amount of sources that he used for every single sentence. And this is all 300 years ago. All from memory. There's no computers, there's no assistants, there's no nothing. He's literally doing everything from his mind. And all of those sources are mentioned literally like clockwork, like it's just a machine coming out. There's not a single page that doesn't have countless sources. Every book that he has, every one of them literally uses hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sources for every parasha. We're talking about literally thousands of sources that he used for every few pages. It's unbelievable how a human being can even read the names of the sources. Needless to say, remember what the sources said and which page and when and how and why. And this is all from memory. Then you see the amount of sources that are used in the later books. You can't compare the two. You simply can't compare the two. Yes, they use sources, but this is more like someone of today. With all the respect in the world. And someone of the world today has computers. Still, you cannot compare. The smartest guy today with a computer cannot compare to a Chacham of 300 years ago. Without a computer, without a system by himself. Needless to say, compared to the Rambam or to the Geonim that preceded him, or the Amoraim or Tanaim, and obviously before that. So the amount of knowledge that humans had used to be much greater anyway. I mean, you look at the geniuses of the nations like Da Vinci and some of the scientists that they had. I mean, some of these people were very, very smart people. Very, very, very smart people that they had. And you can't compare anybody in the world to them. Can't compare anybody in the world to them. It's just simply not possible. Even the people that are smart today still are not even like a peel not even a peel next to, let's say, Isaac Newton. You can't even, any smart person today. There's one guy I know in America, he has like an IQ of like 200 or something like that. He's a genius, he has some gift, and he does a lot of cool things with it and so on. With all of what he thinks and what he does and everything, he'll tell himself, he's not even the peel of an orange next to Isaac Newton. Peel, nothing. But he has all the computers in the world and all the help in the world, and it doesn't make a difference. Compare him to Isaac Newton, nothing to compare to. Nothing. Even more so in the scholarly world of the Torah. You compare the greatest scholars of today to the scholars of yesteryear, can't compare. Can't compare at all. Simply, the human capacity changed drastically. The human capacity changed drastically. The amount of, put it this way, Shulchan Aruch, most of you that are only English speakers have probably never seen a Shulchan Aruch, okay? Now, Shulchan Aruch is not the Kitzu Shulchan Aruch that was written 100 years ago and is translated in English. It's one book. The Shulchan Aruch is not one book. It's big and it's massive actually. It's massive. Now, this Shulchan Aruch was called Shulchan Aruch by Rabbi Yosef Karo 500 years ago, as in essence an implication to tell you that this is, everything is set for you on the table to be able to study the whole thing once per month. That's what he writes. That's what he writes in the Shulchan Aruch. This is ready, set for you. It's a table is set for you to study the whole thing once per month. As a review, once per month, the whole thing. Average person, if he finishes the Shulchan Aruch once every 5 years, it's already a lot. He's already doing great. It's just, again, Rabbi Yosef Karo 500 years ago said you have to, technically, in his time, average person could finish the whole thing in 1 month. 1 month, the whole thing. Average person, we're not even talking about above average. Average person can finish it 1 month. Shem Yishmo on us can finish the thing in 5 years. It's a reality. It's a reality. So it's a people mistake the technological development that you have in the world today to mental prowess, and it's not. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. It's a misunderstanding of society and history and so on. So, it's as far as the geniuses that we had, throughout our history, it's no one can debate that. But the people of the Tanach, the people that are mentioned in the Tanakh, or the people that chose the Tanakh, were not in the category of what I just described of geniuses. They were above that, which means that it's indescribable and incomprehensible for any of us to understand what a prophet is. It's not humanly possible for us to understand what a prophet is. We could say, it's somebody that talks to God and God talks back to him. But that's a oversimplistic description. Oversimplistic description. It's much more than that. Much more than that. The people of to describe Jeremiah, you could write a million books. You're not going to be able to do it. Of course, there have been many books to describe what happened to him, but to describe the person and not possible. So the more Torah you learn, the more you understand how much more information there is and how far we are really from true knowledge, and also why you start understanding why the reward in heaven is to learn more Torah. That's the reward. The reward is, that's what the Chachamim do, that's what the Tzaddikim do. They learn more Torah in heaven. Why? Because there's literally an endless amount of Torah, and the Torah that we have in this world is only the essence of Torah. It's not the full Torah, it's the essence of Torah. The full Torah we can't study in this world. We don't have the soul that's able to do it. But we have obviously a lot of Torah, and if a person simply learned what he's obligated to learn, he's already going to be in a very, very elevated place. But nonetheless, it's the more you learn, the more you get upset also of the ignoramuses and heretics that are out there, which are usually the same, that mock the sages and arrogantly disagree with them. And it's just like the Rishon LeZion said in his letter. It's just the lions are scared when these chachamim stood up, and this nothing doesn't even recognize that he's standing next to a giant. It's like it's just a very unfortunate to see arrogance get to such a level, but it's not a new thing. It's not a new thing. All right, Michael is asking, if a person forgot to say Birkat HaMazon, they are now in a different place than they were when they ate, and more than 72 minutes have passed. Can they say it when they remember? No. If more than 72 minutes have passed, you should not say it. It's some will say that it's a b'chal deoraita, but the reality is that after 72 minutes, you're no longer thinking of the meal, you're no longer satiated from the meal, so it could be a b'chal levatala. So no. Really, the person should do Birkat HaMazon as soon as they finish, for a few reasons. Number one, it's actually in this week's parasha, Birkat HaMazon. It's a mitzvah from the Torah. The only blessing that we have that's from the Torah, that's an obligation from the Torah, is the blessing of Birkat HaMazon, which means that when a person does not do Birkat HaMazon, it's a biblical violation. It's not a rabbinical violation. Not that the rabbinical violations are not a big deal, but everyone understands that a biblical violation is worse. As far as the magnitude, the spiritual effect on a person, and so on. So it's it says "V'achalta basar ki birkat Adonai Elohecha." It's a person has to make a blessing when he eats, and if a person does not do a blessing, a birkat HaMazon, especially, they're considered. The Gemara in Masechet Brachot says they're considered as if they're stealing from Hashem. So it's a very, very serious predicament to put you in. So a person needs to do Birkat HaMazon as soon as they finish eating. As soon as they finish eating. If a person forgets once, it's not the end of the world. Do tshuva. Take it upon yourself to make sure to carry something with you to always remember, or perhaps to already put the sidur or the card that has the Birkat HaMazon next to you, next to the plate, so you know that you're not going to walk away from this book after you walk away from the plate. You're going to, you have this thing next to you. It's going to remind you to pray. And point is, make yourself some type of fence. Make yourself some type of procedure that's going to ensure that you're not going to forget again. And do the blessing, but don't make it a habit to forget Birkat HaMazon. It's a very big deal. Second reason is, for everybody that usually forgets, it's because they're so focused on other things, especially their work, their money, their employees, their boss, and so on. And the reality is that if you want blessings when it comes to Parnassah, the number one place to get it is Birkat HaMazon. That's where all of the requests for all the good that a person wants are in that blessing. The section where it talks about a Rachaman, that's the merciful one. The merciful one will give me this. The merciful one will give me that. That's the section where you ask for everything that you want. So, in essence, the whole point of the meal is to get blessing, to get another meal. Forgetting it, you're missing the whole point of the meal. You're missing the whole point of the meal. So, if a person that wants to have good parnassah, should be stringent on doing Birkat HaMazon at least once a day. And that's why the Gemara says that a person, even if they want to get good health, should start off the day with pat shachrit. Pat shachrit is to eat bread in the morning. After you put on tefillin and you pray, first breakfast should involve bread. So you could do Birkat HaMazon. Why? Number one, Chachamim say it's good for your health, physical health, to start off the day with bread. Number two, it's also good for parnassah. Good for parnassah. There's many, many other reasons. Point is that Birkat HaMazon is not one of those things you want to be forgetting on a regular basis. Ricardo is asking, if all the mitzvot of the Pogem HaBRIT go to the Sitra Achra, why wouldn't the Samech Mem focus on making people commit only sins of immorality? Well, actually it is. and the number one thing that people fall in the generation before Mashiach especially, and even the last couple of thousand years, has been the issues of immorality. That's the main tikkun of the Mashiach, of the generation before Mashiach. Before that we had different tikkunim of idolatry. Was a big tikkun that we had, but after that was removed from the world, the tikkun that we have now is immorality. Immorality for men as far as promiscuity with themselves, wasting seed, promiscuity with women, and so on. Intermarriage. For women, it's a lack of modesty, and also promiscuity, and so on. And also Torah. Those are the main tikkunim for the generation. That's what it's taught by the Chachamim. So yeah, that's in essence the Malach HaMavet, the Satan, is ahead of you on that. He is focusing on that, and he's not only focusing on that, his wife is focusing on it. And in fact, his wife is stronger than him, and she is the queen of the immorality world. She's the queen over there. She's has more strength than him. Yeah, Shem Yishmor. Have the 3 oaths been fulfilled? I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. Rabbi, must we touch the mezuzah with a particular hand? No, you don't have an obligation to kiss the mezuzah when you walk in or walk out of a room, but it is a custom among Am Yisrael that we learned from Onkelos the convert. In the Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah talks the whole story of Onkelos, who was from the family of the Roman Empire, supposed to be the next Caesar, the next leader, but instead he converted to Judaism. And when his uncle, who was the current Caesar, found out about it, that Onkelos converted, he wanted to arrest him, and he sent people to Israel to get him. But Onkelos spoke to them and convinced them to convert also. And then he sent them more people, and Onkelos convinced them also. So he told his next group of soldiers, don't allow him to talk. If he talks, kill him. Don't talk. Don't allow him to talk. If he talks, he's going to convince you. So they came and told him, listen, if you talk, we have orders to kill you, so don't talk. So Onkelos didn't talk. And when they were taking him in a respectable way out of the house, before he got out of the house, he kissed the mezuzah. And they said to him, well, why did you kiss that box? And he says, that's because that box is the protection I have from my God. He said, what? What do you mean? They asked. So they became interested. And he said, listen, your king, he hides behind walls and he needs you to protect him. My king, he's not hiding anywhere and he protects me. And that's the mezuzah. That's why he kissed the mezuzah. And from there, Am Yisrael took on the custom of showing the love that we have for the mitzvot that Hashem gives us, whether it's the mezuzah, or tefillin, or a sefer Torah, or a different sefer that we have of holiness, different things that we have, to kiss them, to show Hashem that we love the mitzvot. The tzitzit, we kiss them to show Hashem that we love His mitzvot. There's no obligation to kiss them, but it is the custom to show Hashem that we love something. Just like if a father wants to show his daughter or his son that he loves them, he hugs them, he'll give them a kiss, and so on, obviously, especially if they're little kids. If she's a married woman already, it's inappropriate. But nonetheless, if it's a little kid, you give him a hug and a kiss. You show the kid that you love him. Parents that don't hug and kiss their kids, those kids are poor kids. Those kids are sad kids. Why? Because they're, they don't know if their parents love them. Why? Because we are, as human beings, we're affectionate people. We're warm people. We're warm creatures. We need somebody to hug us and kiss us and so on. And the same thing when we express that same type of affection on the mitzvot that Hashem gave us, the different tools that we use to honor Him, to sanctify Him, to serve Him, the tefillin, the tzitzit, the talit, the mezuzah, the books. Every time you see a sefer Torah, you give it a kiss. It shows Hashem, oh, I love this thing. Now, if a person just kisses the book but doesn't read it, obviously it's worthless. You have to read the book mainly and follow what it says. But nonetheless, if you read, follow what it says, and you kiss it, you show Hashem that you love the mitzvot. So there's no obligation to do it, but surely this is the right way to behave. And as far as when you are kissing the mezuzah, generally speaking, it's with the right hand. Again, like I said, it's not a sin to do it with the left hand or something else, but it's traditionally that's the way it's done. We'll take one more question and then we'll call it the night. Does Facebook and YouTube get merits when we share or watch Torah on their platforms? How does this work, especially since they host so much filth? Very good. So the Rambam answers this question, actually. The Rambam answers this question a little over 800 years ago in his letter to in his commentary to the Mishnah, introduction to the Mishnah, where he talks about the different Chachamim and the different sages we had, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and so on and so forth. And at some point over there, in the letter, in the commentary to the Mishnah, the introduction, he talks about how the Jew, the righteous Jew, is so precious to Hashem that the whole world exists for him to such an extent that Hashem will give some non-Jew, some Arab, some Buddhist, some Christian, some whatever, an enormous amount of money. He'll give the Arab or the Christian or whoever it is, somebody else, some Noahide. He'll give him an enormous amount of money and a lot of success for him to do whatever he wants to do in this world. But then part of the thing is to also give him a thought, some crazy thought to what? To build a tower in the middle of the desert that has no economic value, no business sense whatsoever. But nonetheless, he'll give him the idea. Hashem will give this person an idea to spend a fortune to build some huge tower in the middle of the desert. Why? Because one day, hundreds of years later, a righteous Jew will walk in a desert and will get hot and will need to get some shade to get away from the heat. Now there's a building, he'll use the building that's been vacant for, could be a century already, for shade. Hashem will literally turn the whole world upside down, give this non-Jew, this person, this whoever he is, a fortune for him to do whatever he wants to do with it, but also build this huge building. Why? Because my son is going to need some shade for 20 minutes in 300 years from now. So the whole world was created for the tzaddik. Now, this also pertains to the tools of the world, whether it's the Facebook or the YouTube or the WhatsApps. All of these things were created for the sake of Torah. All of them. Facebook, internet, YouTube, WhatsApp, everything that you see Torah in it, that's the purpose of why it's there. Now, surely there's also a lot of filth, but like I said, Hashem will give these people whatever it is that they want. They want to build the internet because they want to see more, filth on there. Let them do it. Let them do whatever they want. Why? Because one guy is going to use this same internet to help thousands among thousands or even millions, B'ezrat Hashem, one day of Hashem's children from all over the world and from all the nations to do tshuva. That same internet, that same tool that is full of destruction and filth and garbage, they would have destroyed their lives anyway. Those people that want to destroy their lives find a way to destroy their lives one way or another. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed them to invent the internet and YouTube and Facebook and WhatsApp and so on, because there's going to be a Jew one day that's going to help countless people do tshuva. And more than one Jew, and more than one rabbi, and more than one rabbanit, and more than one place is going to continue helping more and more people do tshuva and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and allow HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name to spread in all four corners of the world like never before. Because in the old days, if you wanted to read a book, you had to go find somebody that owns the book. And once you found somebody that owns the book, you have to convince him to allow you to live with him for 6 months or a year until you finish reading and learning that book. If you wanted to go spread teachings and teach somebody else, you had to move and leave your family behind for a period of months or years. And many times, for example, you have Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia was an extraordinary scholar, the Gemara says, but nobody did what Rabbi Chia did for the world of the Torah. Why? Rabbi Chia stopped his learning, stopped everything, and decided one day he's going to go and farm. So people are asking, why is Rabbi Chia farming? Rabbi Chia is farming. Little do they know, after they see he's farming, he gets all the different materials to start making nets. He said, Rabbi Chia, the Gadol Hador, does all of this hard work like us just to make nets? He's sewing nets? That's what Rabbi Chia wants to make? He wants to make nets? Why? They keep waiting, they see Rabbi Chia use these nets to catch deer. And he catches deer. They say, what? Rabbi Chia wants to eat meat? He has such a desire to eat meat that he did this whole farming, the sewing, the this, the that, just to go catch a deer. That's all he wants. But then they see Rabbi Chia take the deer, slaughter it in a kosher way. Obviously, that's why he has to use a net, because the only way to catch a deer in a kosher way. And take all the meat and give it to poor people, to the widows and orphans. So he's not even eating the meat. So why did he do all of this for? To take the skin of the deer and start writing, making it into klafim, into scrolls, and starts writing the Chumash on it. And they say, wow, so Rabbi Chia is going to start selling books, but he already has these books. He already has the Chumash. What does he need? All of this trouble, all of this time just to write a Chumash. He already has the Chumash. And not only one Chumash, he's writing multiple Chumashim. More deer. He keeps catching deer and he keeps writing more Chumashim. Why does he need so much Chumashim? Then on top of it, he starts writing the Mishnah. He writes the whole Mishnah, 63 Mishnah, 6 parts of the Mishnah. Why does he need so many copies of it? And as Rabbi Chia leaves, he goes to a village where there's a few Jews over there. He sees all the kids over there are in the streets. He tells all the kids to come into a place, and he gives one section of them. One person he gives them Bereshit. Another person he gives them Shmot, the Exodus. Then another person he gives them Numbers, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and so on. Not in that order, obviously. But the point is that he gives each kid one of the books of the Chumashim, and that he gives each kid one of the Seder of the Mishnayot. So you have yourself 11 different kids, each one learning different things. And he teaches each one of them the whole thing. After they all finish, okay, teach each other. I have to go. All the kids start crying. No, Rabbi Chia, you gave us life. You gave us life. Now we have Torah. How could you leave us? He says, don't worry, I'll come back. But for now, while I'm gone, teach each other this Torah. And he said, where are you going? He says, I have other villages where there are other Jews that don't know the Torah, and I have to give them the same thing I gave to you. I have to give them the same thing I give to you. And that's what he did. He went to different villages and he kept giving them the Torah. So the Torah doesn't get forgotten in the world. So we see here that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made all of these different things for the sake of the Torah. He made the deer for the sake of the Torah. He made the bow and arrow for the sake of the Torah. The building for the sake of the Torah. And so on. But the problem is that in the past, in order for you to spread the Torah, you have to be like Rabbi Chia. How many Rabbi Chias were there? One. That's it. There's no other Rabbi Chia. Other people also spread Torah, but that's it. Everybody had a small capacity of how many people they can get to. Rabbi Akiva, that had 24,000 students, still, this didn't reach the whole world like the internet reaches the world today, where you could have literally one lecture teach 100,000, 500,000, 1 million people. So you have, Baruch Hashem, Torah today that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has. He needs everybody to be given a chance, because this is the last train. This is the last chance everybody has before Mashiach comes, and then there's no more tshuva. There's no more tshuva, there's no more conversion, there's no more nothing. So everybody in the world, in the 4 corners of the world, all of the Jewish people, all of the non-Jewish people, they're all going to be given a chance to see the Torah. Decide for themselves whether they want to follow the Torah or they want to go against the Torah. They want to continue being Christians. They want to continue being Muslims that hate Jews. They want to continue being atheist Jews. They want to be continuing being secular heretics. They want to be fake religious, reformers, conservative. They're all going to get punished severely. You want to do tshuva. You want to keep the Torah as the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, in line with Orthodox Judaism. You'll get rewarded. You'll be successful for eternity. You want to be a follow the Torah as a righteous Noahide because you're not Jewish, no problem. You'll get rewarded for eternity. But nonetheless, a person has to know that all of the internet, all of the WhatsApps, all of the technology, all of the easy access to books, cheap printing, all types of materials that are made today, enormous buildings, media, all of these things were all made for the sake of the Torah to be spread before the final day, before Mashiach comes. Why? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu, now we're running out of time. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, that's it, this is the last train. We don't have any more time for people like tzaddikim like Rabbi Chia, and we don't have anybody like Rabbi Chia that's willing to do what he did. That's why he got rewarded, unlike anybody else. Rabbi Chia, his reward, even his uncle, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, was jealous of him, of what Rabbi Chia got in the next world. So the point is that it's we have a situation where we don't have the type of time that Rabbi Chia had. It's the last generation before Mashiach. Everybody has to be given a chance, but how can you have the emet, the truth, reach all four corners of the world, all nations, all places, all countries, every Jew in every crevice, every hole, every community, everything. The atheist Jew, the lefty Jew, the good Jew, the bad Jew, the ugly Jew, the good-looking Jew, the female Jew, the male Jew, the one that's confused Jew, the one with the hat Jew, the one without the hat, with the kippah and the mustache Jew, the one with the beard Jew, the one with big ears and small nose Jew, and the one with the big nose and small ears Jew, the one with a lot of teeth and the one with no teeth, the one that's a scholar Jew, the one that's a amazing Jew, the one that's a big-hearted Jew, the one that's a fat Jew and a skinny Jew, but an amazing Jew. All of these Jews are going to be given a chance, but not only the Jews, all of the nations will be given a chance, and they have even more looks and more descriptions. But nonetheless, everybody will get a chance. And for everyone to get a chance, Hashem has to allow Facebook to grow to be a $1 trillion company, and Apple to go be a $2 trillion company, and all of these companies that, he allows them to do all of these things. Why? They're here today, gone tomorrow. They're simply tools for Hashem. They're just tools for Hashem. It's like a doll with the strings. In a play, it looks like the doll knows what it's doing. Looks like the doll is tough and beat up the other guy. Ooh, yeah, he won, he this, he that. But then obviously, the guy that's moving the strings knows the whole thing is a game. Even though the audience thinks it's real, the audience is entertained, the doll looks like it's actually winning something. In reality, the one that's pulling the strings knows the whole thing is fake news. It's entertainment. That's the Kadosh Baruch Hu in this world with all these Apples and Facebooks and WhatsApps and so on. So they're all tools for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're all tools for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The cow is a tool for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The computer is a tool for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is a tool for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We are trying to be tools for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We are trying to be the vessels of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring the truth. To bring the truth to the world, so everyone is given a legitimate chance and doesn't have any excuses. To say, I didn't know. No such thing. Everyone will know what the truth is when that final day comes. And everyone will know what's going to happen to them as a result of their decisions before that day came. And Be'ezrat Hashem, more and more people are joining the right place. More and more people are doing tshuva. More and more people are getting closer to Hashem. More and more people are converting to Judaism that's in a legitimate way, in an authentic way, with the right intentions. More and more. And more people are abandoning the wicked. But still not enough. Still not enough. We still have a lot of work to do. And for all of those people that want to help us, they're welcome to. For all of those that want to continue learning for themselves, it's also good too. Either way, we should all know that ultimately, all the things that are going to matter when the time comes, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends us the Mashiach, is what have you done what have you done to use this world that I built for you in order to bring the Mashiach, in order to spread my Torah? What have you do? If all you did was enjoy the beautiful world that Hashem created, enjoy the goods, enjoy the technology, enjoy the food, enjoy everything, but not spread Torah, it's a very, very sad predicament. But if you use the world that Hashem created, both to enjoy it, but also to spread the Torah in no less a manner, then of course you'll be rewarded for it, and even your use of Facebook turns into a mitzvah. But if you use Facebook to make sins, then surely your use of Facebook is a sin that you'll get punished for. So Bezrat Hashem, we're each going to make the right decision, to do the right thing, and Bezrat Hashem continue to spread HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name in all four corners of the world. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.